It was supposed to be a straightforward drive. A simple 4-hour trip from Crestwood to Silver Creek for a sales conference. My name is Alex Thorne, and I've driven more miles than most people have had hot dinners. I live on the road, navigating by instinct as much as by GPS. That night, however, instinct failed me. A sudden jackknifed truck had shut down the main highway. The detour signs were a mess, pointing drivers onto a confusing web of country lanes. My GPS was useless, just a frantic spinning icon on a blank screen. Frustrated, I pulled into a dusty, flickering gas station that looked like it hadn't seen a new coat of paint since the 70s. The old man behind the counter had a face like a dried-up riverbed. "Silver Creek?" he rasped, wiping a greasy rag on an even greasier counter. "Highway's blocked solid. Best to wait it out here." I told him I couldn't, that I had a meeting in the morning. He just shook his head slowly. "There ain't no other way. Not a safe one, anyway." That's when I saw it. A thin, faded line on an old paper map tacked to the wall behind him. A line my digital maps had completely missed. It was a direct shot, cutting straight through the Briarwood National Forest. I pointed at it. "What about this road? The Penitent's Path?" The old man froze. The rag in his hand stopped moving. He wouldn't look at me, his eyes fixed on some distant point. "That road, it ain't on the maps for a reason, son. Locals don't use it. We pretend it isn't there." I pressed him, but he just shook his head again, muttering, "Some roads are best left untraveled." His warning should have been enough. It should have sent a chill down my spine. But I was tired, arrogant, and behind schedule. I just saw a shortcut. I paid for a full tank of gas and a stale coffee, ignoring the deep unease in the old man's eyes. As I walked out, I heard him whisper, "May you find your peace at the end of it." I thought it was a strange way to say goodbye. Finding the entrance to the Penitent's Path was tricky. It was unmarked, just a gap in a line of ancient, gnarled oak trees, almost completely swallowed by overgrown ivy. The asphalt was cracked and buckled, nature already reclaiming its territory. The moment my tires rolled onto it, a profound silence fell. The chirping of crickets, the hum of the highway, all gone. It was just me, my car, and the oppressive quiet of the woods. The forest on either side was unnaturally dark and dense. The trees crowded in, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for my car. The moonlight struggled to pierce the thick canopy, casting long, distorted shadows that danced and writhed at the edge of my vision. A strange feeling settled over me, a heavy, somber feeling, like walking into a cathedral after a funeral. Then I saw the first mile marker. It was old, made of stone, covered in moss. The number carved into it was 40. That seemed about right for the distance. I drove on, the road unervingly straight. There were no turns, no exits, just this single black ribbon cutting through the endless woods. After a few minutes, I passed another stone marker. This one read 39. That's when I first noticed it, the countdown. Roads don't work like that. Mile markers usually count up from a state line or a major intersection. This was counting down to what? A prickle of unease turned into a knot of genuine fear in my stomach. I told myself it was just some old, weird county system, but I knew I was lying. The silence was the worst part. It wasn't just quiet, it was an absence of sound. My engine seemed muffled. The tires on the asphalt made no noise. I turned on the radio, desperate for a human voice, but all I got was static. A thick, hissing static that felt more menacing than the silence itself. Mile marker 31. The air grew colder. I could see my breath misting in the car, even though the night outside was mild. The shadows thrown by my headlights seemed to deepen, to coalesce into shapes that almost looked human before dissolving back into darkness. I started to feel like I was being watched by 1,000 unseen eyes from the impenetrable woods. Mile marker 24, the static on the radio changed. It wasn't just a hiss anymore. Buried deep within it, I could hear whispers. Faint, overlapping voices, too low to understand. They sounded sorrowful, full of regret. I fumbled to turn the radio off, but the knob wouldn't budge. The whispers continued, a ghostly choir of remorse. I pressed harder on the accelerator. I just wanted this to be over, but the car didn't seem to speed up. It felt like I was driving through thick molasses, the journey stretching into an eternity between each stone marker. Mile marker 17. The whispers grew clearer. I could make out words now. "I'm sorry," one voice sobbed. "I didn't mean to," another pleaded. "Forgive me," a third cried out. It was a cacophony of confession, a chorus of guilt seeping through the speakers. My heart was hammering against my ribs. This road wasn't just a road. It was something else, something terrible. Mile marker 9. Shapes started to appear on the road ahead. Hazy, translucent figures that shimmered in my headlights. They were people. They stood by the side of the road, their heads bowed, their forms wavering like heat haze. As I drove past, their faces turned towards me, their eyes hollow, their mouths open in silent screams. They were dressed in clothes from different decades. A woman in a 40s-style dress, a man in a 70s suit, a teenager in a 90s grunge t-shirt. All of them trapped here on this road. My hands were slick with sweat on the steering wheel. I couldn't turn back. There was no way to turn around on this narrow, one-way path to damnation. The only way was forward. The penitent's path, now I understood. This was a road for the regretful, the guilty. Every mile was a step closer to some final judgment. Mile marker 3. The car's electronics began to fritz. The dashboard lights flickered and died. The headlights dimmed to a weak, pathetic glow. The whispering from the radio intensified, now screaming accusations. "You lied. You cheated. You ran away." My own past mistakes, my own secret shamas began to flash in my mind. The time I'd let a friend take the fall for something I did. The promises I'd broken. The people I'd hurt. The road was feeding on my guilt, drawing it out of me. Mile marker 1. The stone was directly in front of me, stark and final in my fading headlights. The whispers stopped. The static died. An absolute, terrifying silence returned. The road continued for another 100 yards, and then just ended. It didn't merge with another road or lead to a town. It stopped at the edge of a sheer cliff overlooking a dark, churning river far below. But that wasn't the most horrifying part. At the very end of the road, parked with its back wheels hanging precariously over the abyss, was a car. An old, beat-up sedan identical to my own. The same make, the same model, the same color. Even the dent on the rear bumper from a parking lot mishap last year was there. My blood ran cold. The driver's side door was open, and sitting in the driver's seat, slumped over the steering wheel, was me. It was my face, my clothes, my thinning hair. But the eyes were open and vacant, the skin was pale and waxy, and there was a dark, terrible stain on my shirt, right over my heart. This version of me had been here for a long, long time, My car rolled to a stop a few feet behind my own tune. The engine died. The doors locked with a heavy, final thunk. I was trapped. Then, from the driver's seat of the other car, the head of my own corpse slowly lifted. Its dead eyes locked onto mine. Its mouth, cracked and dry, opened, and a voice, my voice, rasped through the suffocating silence. A voice filled with an eternity of regret. "Welcome," it said. "We've been waiting for you to take your turn." And as I sat there, paralyzed with a terror beyond words, I finally understood the old man's parting words. This wasn't a shortcut. This was a destination. The penitent's path doesn't lead to Silver Creek. It leads to the end of the line, where you are forced to confront the person you've become, and then wait forever for the next guilty soul to take your place. Now the mile marker behind me reads 1, and I wait. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into the darkness. See you next time